Okay, today we're going to look at how we actually approach a question then, if we get one on identity. I've already done videos on Emigree and Checking Out My History, so if you need to revise those first, it's worth watching those videos. And the quotes that we're looking at here are all explored within those videos. When you're writing an essay, it's important to start by looking obviously at the question. It's not just compared to poems, you've got a particular theme. So looking at the importance of identity here, you need to start off by looking at just a brief introduction, lay out your critical argument. What are both of these poems saying about identity? And both of them, it's the importance of remembering history and remembering their background and their heritage as something that is powerful and beautiful to them. So it's always focusing on the importance of history or cultural identity. It brings both of them hope. And makes them feel something of value in their past. Really interesting, both of them have an almost identical technique here with the them versus me, that sense of isolation in where they live now. So they accuse me and them tell me. So both of them feel isolated in their current society. And that's really interesting that both of them use this repetition as well. We can see this anaphora here. They accuse me of absence. They accuse me of being dark. So we've got a shared technique as well. And that makes a perfect kind of pair of quotes in the exam. They're linked on theme and they're linked on technique. Perfect. In this one, we can see this. Them tell me about Dizzy ran away with a spoon, but them never tell me about Nanny de Maroon. We've got that kind of mocking voice that we talked about. And looking at the contrast between the two. It may be at war, it may be sick with tyrants, but I am branded by an impression of sunlight. So both of them are using juxtaposition or contrast to look at differences here. So here we've got juxtaposition between the foolishness of the kind of British nursery rhymes that we're taught about, and yet the serious things that we're not. And here we've got a juxtaposition between the reality of war and what our country is currently like and her positive remembering. And so they both start with mocking or start negatively. And they end with something positive, something that's important to them. So in Checking Out My History, Nanny de Maroon is an important figure of history to the speaker, and that memory of light is very important to the speaker of Emigree. Bandage up my eyes with my own history, blind me to my own identity, is that sense of being cut off and distanced from their history. And a very, very similar image here. Time rolls its tanks and the frontiers rise between us. So they're both currently distanced. So they're both distanced from their heritage or their history. And interestingly, when they've done this, both of them use kind of metaphors of violence or war to do so. So maybe they're both kind of suggesting that this distance was forced upon them rather than being voluntarily. And finally, I think the most important link between these two poems is that both of them, as you can see here, use images of light within the two poems. So we've got a healing star, a yellow sunrise. We talked about this representing hope. And Both of these are very positive images. My memory of it is sunlight clear, it tastes of sunlight, my shadow falls as evidence of sunlight. So we've got the sense of the childhood innocence, her memory, and her positivity from the place that she lived. So you can see these poems are really perfect combinations. So if Checking Out My History is named, it would make a lot of sense to compare it to Emigree, and vice versa. If Emigree comes up on those themes of identity or history, make sure you're comparing it to Checking Out My History. Also, if one of these two comes up, let's hope not that one. Alright, these would be really good ones to compare it to. So if Kamikaze came up, really good to look at one of these two when you're exploring the importance of identity.